Kaya yoxatini ltakat Johan Kulchish Wujin Hasati Atgate Shukuk das Huau Achtu Yake Tleshiayaki Yake Kudas Hua. Ya Des Klek Kwanlin Aya Kwanlin Kaya Achye Hatbutien Kliatke Kanach Tedi Kui Gawayawaki Yuk. Ya achtu yake ya khosatini. Ya kun shkachtlenik tan qaqitsawa. Qajit kuhi qa kingiste. Hasuk et aya khosaku. Shinket qinach aya hasu in kachonik. Ya achyetki hasakha kawanik weshkashnik. Aqadana hasu jide hasawati. Ya qanachtedi. Ajoy daklawi de hasati. Ye awa achtu yake ya hakosti o ya wahi ya kuig ya haatkhai ya yak klein yekte we ya khatwati khatqat idwu qaakhiyatki khat tu de shat wasa atqwane ya kwash akatut ye jene akatut aya ya ashu akha ayidu asago ats aqa away ya plaika keit kadishkiti at kutzati do you ʼatangi masadu asag katratsu besai ay achji let's oh like what's achji ishan dakun kwastakun skashnik khoa akayeti ya achtuasagu disclaim gwash qone yande shuk qochin achtuasagu hawakshiyike yisene yijene gwashtakun at qaqwasti qadzati yatleka katratse qakwasadu sak tape ho akaushikit plata gwashachjiu yilkune ye uwasa yeah, we click our recording for achtuasagu atisa achi achtuasagu kayi datli kayi dat kayi datli dasa iya achtuasagu kayi ni wan qanins kleinach wan qanins wuchin yeah, away. Yisaku yidat dewe akhil ʼatangi kalchish. Okay. What did I say?
You said tape, and then I think you asked how it was spelled. I think you said, what was it?
Keit. I usually say keit, and then however you want to conjugate that, kauduchit or a kaushachit or a kaushachit, which would be you wrote it from their lips, so you wrote it from their mouth. So I'd say, if I was recording someone speaking the language, I might say I wrote down what Kakshage said. And then there was something about a jucha. I got the name somewhere. That's my problem. I always say I'm gonna put all my notes in one place, but then I break my own rules. I'll find it though. I got Jeff Lear came up with a word for cassette tape. Chagudach aayí, hatlagu quen kian aayí. It's an ancient thing. What else did I say? What else did I say?
Were you talking about a ku'ich
Yeah, there was a ku'ich.
and ganachtedi or
There's a qanachtedi ku'ich.
and klak'an or
Not klakwan.
You said Daka, so in
Daka.
inland
Wanlin.
white horse. Mm.
Ako atlet kam dan. Yes.
Mm.
Tashachtuashko at the wood hakatugudi. And what happened? What else? There's at least two more things. I think I
you
said.
mentioned King Gasty.
Yep. And
But
Tajikuhi.
Do each has.
Yeah, his father's people are qanachtedi.
Mention giving someone money, maybe?
Yeah, someone got paid.
Oh,
Real paid.
Did they kill the money or is it?
No. Actually, yeah, they didn't. They didn't do that. But not everybody does things the same. Hun shkachtlenik ach yetki has akawanik. That's a good verb. That's a good one. That's a bite-sized verb right there. Two of them. Kun shkachtlenik. Or I can also say kun kauchtlenik because there's a specific thing. And what is kun? Ka'in, to the people. Kauchtlenik. I told a story.
Told it.
I told a story. Aqa'aryetki has aqakawanik.
the kids.
To the kids about the um
My kids aqanikted. So a cow.
Told a story of it.
story.
It's very close. But if I told the story, Shingit Chenach has aqakawanik.
They told the story. Your kids did.
That's close. I told the story though. They're not gonna steal my thunder. It's shared. It's shared thunder.
About your kids.
Has okay. If I were to say Kauchlenik Shingit Chenach Achyetki Hasachakawanik, what would make sense to be there? If I
You
said
told a story about your kids talking Tlingit in Tlingit and Tlingit.
Shingit Chenach would be Kun Kauchlenik Shingit Chenach. So no kids are in that.
Oh, their story of their Tlingit names.
No. But we're just keep going. Like don't worry. We're good.
Okay.
Shingit Chenach Kain Kauchlenik.
They got a name. They received a name.
No, there's no names. It's Tlingit Chenach.
Oh.
Aayí.
Oh.
What's
Okay.
Chenach?
Can you repeat it, sorry?
Tlingit Chenach sa. Yeah, so if I say Tlingit Chenach,
Say it in Tlingit.
I told a story in Tlingit.
Yeah.
So what do you think they did if they has a chakawanik? Okay, not very many people, here's your big hint, not very many people could speak Tlingit there.
They translated.
Interpret.
Translated it. A kawanik. So this, if you ever look up the kawanik verb, if you put ka in front of ka, you have translated. Okay.
Oh.
That's how that verb. That's how. Oh, we got echo.
Ach ish ka ach kla do ish.
One
Oh.
second.
Yawa ka kunach yak eish gachni giwe.
Oh, goodness, sheesh.
He told me that. ach ish ka ach sich.
We'll disconnect from the audio. There's a triangle right next to that microphone, and then you'll select.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay. And then there was.
Gwal,
Oh, go ahead.
gwal, kanik, se dewasak tan ka kishwa.
It's awa. Yeah, awa.
Oh.
Yeah, awa. Geez, okay. Then there's one more thing. One more thing. Yakyektawe. Khat. Oh, khatu tishat. Wasa atkakwane. We katut yejane. Yank. I think it'd be katut yejane. It could be ashuvu yejane. I like katut in this case.
Well, you came down on the ferry with Jidwu.
Jidwu.
I don't know what you did there.
Khatu tishat.
And his wife?
Well, no, that's a verb. Just like
Oh, okay. Never mind.
it's the awashat verb, but it's a little different. You say
Janet's not here. Okay.
khatu tishat. I suddenly realized. And you could also say khatu tishat, which would be suddenly change their mind, right? Khatu tishat. Wasa atkakone akatut yechene yank kwash ashu yechene. So figuring out what to call that thing. So a katut is halfway if it's a container. So just what is that? Just a katut we guka we kakwe achtuati. Claik brim again. You do a song. What was that coffee called? I remember, this is probably in the 80s where they said, I just want half a cup. And they said, fill it to the rim with brim or something like that. Anybody remember this? Am I alone here? Anyways.
I know the phrase is fill it to the brim,
Fill it
but
to the brim?
I don't know which. Yeah, but
What?
isn't it? Because it's like brimming over is the cup of coffee. Could be, going over the brim. But I don't know which coffee you're talking about.
It's brim coffee. This is, look at this rare find. Okay, hold on. I have been confirmed. Vintage from the 1970s. Okay. So another thing from long ago was cassette tapes. So here's the whole purpose. So I had a realization of what I think your midterm assignment should be. So I'm going to let you know now, because it's this Yádi, and by the end of this plane, we should have the thing wrapped up. But it's always like a bit of an idea. There's a recording that I found that has a story that I want to learn. So we're going to all learn it together. Maybe. Here's the thing. This recording will have, I think there's going to be 4 different chunks in this recording. And so you can, I think we should pick 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you're going to, what did I say? I don't know why the second one was perfective. Okay. Let's do them all in futures. At gach yisaach. Kagach yishadat. Kagach yinik. What do you think you're going to do?
You're gonna listen first.
Now listen to it.
Mhm.
Tell it.
Not quite.
Write it down.
Not quite
The
right.
third one, a story, tell the story, third one.
What is dodge? I see some motions out there.
Pipe.
Yes. Although technically you could imprint it if you want to use like stamps or something, but we're usually talking about typing, right? Dutch. I typed it with my little imprinters. Because that is the verb for stamping. You're doing a stamp someone's face or something, like a design. Akakahinig.
Help people.
Just did this verb. We just did it.
Ka, ga.
Translate it.
Yes, you can translate it. Yeah, well, yeah.
Duh.
So I will have the recordings probably ready Wednesday. So you've got some time. And you can work on it by yourself for a little bit, work on it together for a little bit. My general recommendation and my hope is that you do a lot by yourself and then you work together, or we all work together to go over it. And so I just want to talk for a quick moment about doing stuff by yourself. I'm not trying to make anybody be alone, be lonely, be by yourself. I'm not trying to take away any of your resources or your collaboration. But I will share a story. We were at a language gathering. I won't say where, I won't say when. And I gave the group an assignment. And one person who loves their elders kept going to the elders. And, and I was saying, look it up, figure out how to say it. Then we'll check it with our elders who were there. We were very lucky to have several high fluency speakers there. And then I went to the person and I said, okay, try and do it yourself before you bring it to the elders. And they got very upset. And they said, you don't want me to work with my elders. And there were tears and it was very serious. And I'm not making fun of this at all. But I said, okay, I need you to figure out how to do this on your own. I need you to know that you're not always going to have these resources you can just go to. How to say that? How do you say this? How do you say that? How do you say this? And I know there's a lot of awesome collaboration going on right now. But sometimes if you just wait for everything to happen so that you can have it for you, there'll be a time when someone will say the thing, and you won't be able to say the thing. So give it a shot on your own, then work it out, and we'll figure out like a nice schedule. I think each clip is going to be about 5 minutes long. It's a speaker from Rangoon. They do speak a little bit fast, but it sounds like a pretty clear recording. But we were just listening to it on the ferry. We made everybody listen to it last night. Everybody gets to listen to some Tlingit in this section of the ferries. I listened to English for 5 hours. They could have done an hour of Tlingit. It was fine. They were all just fine. Nobody complained. Although I was eavesdropping and trying to solve someone's crossword puzzle. I was like, what am I doing? Anyways, any questions, concerns, thoughts, questions, anything about that?
I have one vocabulary question. I didn't hear it. Wasa dua Southlinkit Kaina translate.
A kawadnik would be a third person. A kawanik. They translated it. So so just like a kawanik, there is an object there, but the object is the thing that they're translating. Right? So just don't forget that there's an object there, because you'd say a kawanik. I translated it. But then you'd say a kawanik. They translated it. It's exactly like the kawanik verb. So I could also say ʼatangi, ʼakananik. And now you gotta sweat, because now we're in front of the people. I'm gonna make you translate what I say. That's what they did it to me. My uncles would do that to me. Skaidu, what's that?
Goodness, Chish.
Yeah, I was trying to translate. I am grateful for life and breath. So like nobody's possessing the life or breath. So I didn't know if to make it like subordinative clause if the stuga het the T had to change to attach the deseok. Yes. So I got stuga het the T deseok. Yes. And I didn't know if that was right because I wasn't sure because usually if you're grateful for somebody else, it would go on the front in the beginning. But it just seemed weird that the deseok yes would go in the front.
Yeah, that's a I'll try and run it by a speaker and see what they say because that might work. Usually you would say like a day. It likes to have day, like your gratitude is going towards it. I've also heard dach, like shtiqachatati day. And in this case, chasek or desek, you could say either way, is a noun that comes from a verb. And it's chasek also means life or breath, and chuste also means life or existence. Shtiqachatati. But I wonder, okay, so once I asked a speaker how to say thank you for the food. And the answer they gave me was a lot simpler than I thought it'd be. What do you think they said? I'll give you a hint, there's no yes in it.
Sheesh.
That's one thing.
Wait,
That's it.
Huh.
Or they said, oh, wait, gonna choose your way, right? So you might say, I'm thankful for the breath, for the life. It might be hard to figure out that you, it could mean for breathing as well. So it could work either way. But I think you could also say, like, I don't know if it needs to go really towards something. But these are interesting. I'll see if I can get an answer by Wednesday. Or if anyone else can get an answer, ask a speaker and see what they say. That's a good question. Because you could say, but in that case, it's not subordinative because there's a noun. If there were two verbs, you might say, I'm grateful that people are breathing. But that would be, you'd probably need some context, like maybe there's a whole bunch of smoke because there's some big fire. Okay, yeah, I guess my recommendation is away. Maybe.
Gonna cheese.
Anything else? Other thoughts or questions? Okay. So I know we did talk a little bit. We had a big class, which is very fun. But if I ask you folks a question, we might be here all night with the one question, which is also fine. So I did ask if you didn't have a chance to share something that you've learned in Tlingit and who you learned it from and why it's important to you, feel free to. We are looking for a short version, not to cut anybody off or to, there's some stuff I want to get to as well. We're going to do a few just little puzzles this evening to get us in the mode of thinking about the construction of our language of Tlingit, how things impact other things, and to start getting us into this. We'll just also see what do we recognize. And I'm going to try a few different things. Be warned, we're going to try a few different ways over the next couple of weeks to push us into a conversational environment, which means we're going to set up ways that people will say something and then you might have to reply to it. And so there's a few folks that have been talking about this as well. And we'll look at a whole bunch of tools so that I never want to put anyone in a situation where you're frustrated because you don't know how to say the thing. So instead, we'll sort of find ways to say, okay, we got a little stuck with this thing, but how do we get unstuck? And there'll be different ways we can interact with each other through the chat and through documents to make sure that you can type in English, how do you say this thing? I want to be able to say that. And then we'll work together and see if we can figure it out. So anybody want to share anything you learned in Tlingit before we move on to the next thing?
But I, two things. One is the word kunach. I'm going to move back and show you this hand motion. I don't know if you can see me. My mom would, when she was telling a story, she'd say kunach, kunach. And with that forceful arm motion, I learned that that was important. Whatever that was she was saying was important. And so that's, or it has emphasis. And that was a real clear example to me. The second thing is something that I learned from Scale du Sa, Matthew Spellberg, when he was helping us decipher Zalesha's class. That was like, oh my gosh, it was so dense. And he said, the first thing to remember is that every Tlingit verb is a whole sentence. And I really like that. And it really helps in looking at some of those very long verbs, and you try to figure out, okay, this is the whole sentence. Let me try and figure it out. And it's easiest when you start with a short verb. A.
Sheesh.
A. Cut. Yuck. A. So, but that has been helpful to me.
Sheesh.
Good.
Oh. Anybody else?
This, oh, well, so, I love the gesture. I just want to thank Satuk because I'm still fascinated by the whole discussion about Inka, what is it now? Kindaka. So I'm fascinated by that. But the thing I learned that I don't know why I'm fascinated with this, but when we were having that language immersion, we were talking about the boats and wakes and stuff, and I asked the question, and I was told that kadeya kanashte it we yauk katidi katidi in the wake of the boat is coming in the form of waves. And I just thought that sounded so cool. So that was.
Goodness, sheesh. The verb is right there. So this one would have, like, we would write capital N plus in plus object ka, subject D plus 0 classifier ka. And I do think this is n conjugation. It's invariable, which means this will always be long and low. So let's go ahead and, just in terms of like when you look at the information that's on this verb sheet, and then how do you put this into the ways that we're currently writing the language. And so in this case, you would say N plus in plus object, what did I say? Ka, subject, D plus 0 classifier, and then ka. And then you would put, I kind of lost where my little invariable marker is. I've got to find it. So usually I just copy it from the dictionary. So, and so this would be 4S. to make hand signals or sign language to end. And in this case, again, the sign language is the object. We just do, there are a bunch of verbs where there's an object there, but that object pronoun won't change. It'll be third person. In ʼatangi, it usually will be. So like here's ʼatangi. Right, so how would we translate ʼatangi? And we'll get to the wake thing in a second. The waves.
They signed to them.
Well, no, we're not. We're away from the signed thing. We're going to come back to that.
Object.
Um,
Object, subject.
You could say, okay.
Zero classifier.
Aayí ʼatangi. Just how do we translate it? What does this translate? Aayí ʼatangi.
They told me.
They told it.
they told-
Right, they told it to me. Now there's an object there, right? So for this one, that object can change, but this maybe you'll have this one.
People told me.
Well, this is different. So now this is,
Oh.
now, if I am now the object,
I told people.
well, I could be the subject. So let's say ʼaayí ʼatangi. Yes, I told it to people. And the it is the information. Whatever the information is. I told people ʼakrok was going to happen. I told people that the ʼku'ik was going to happen. I told people there's a big hole in the road right there. Right? So it's the information. That's what the object is. But in this case, if the object changes to a person, they told on me to the people. So now I'm upset. Now I'm mad. Because they say, oh, he's late to class. Ooh, he's all over the place with his language class. ʼaayí ʼatangi. Now this is, you could put, I've heard it as K and I've heard it as kinde right there. And if that goes in there, like ʼaayí ʼatangi, they tattled on me. That's a little bit different. But even when this is what Raven usually says before or what he thinks before he pulls people's tongues out. Now, I'm not trying to say don't say bad things about me. I'm not trying to tie those things together. But just in terms of like how these verbs work, it's rare to have an object there, but you can. But now that means, and it's usually like if someone's up to no good, you say, I'm going to tell about you. I'm going to tell about what you're doing. Right, and then so coming back to here, right? Go ahead. Someone have a thought or question? Okay, all the notes are there. They'll be there. But these are just different verbs. Like, well, this one is the same verb, but once you change the object, now like the way it functions is different. It's not about information anymore. It's like, this is the big expose, and then the celebrity goes down. Okay. Sheesh. So the other one was, we did have some, oh yeah. Sheesh. So in the chat, you'll see, Neshkakuge is, Tiktenia Janea, Yadet, Krakadat, Konea Kuhich, Kashinase, Kwashi Tuasaku Yisatini, Konahoe Kekoke, where Achiki, Atling Yake Achiki, Hadeka Kwaha. Okay, check it out this weekend if you got the opportunity. Okay. So the other one that we were looking at, I guess one, let's see, where are we gonna go? It's my vintage can of brim. That's not what I'm looking for. Here it is. Okay, so in the dictionary, there's a few things to think about in terms of how words kind of are linked together. So a smaller word can become a bigger word. So an important word in Tlingit, I think, it was important in the story that we told the other day, is teet. Does anybody know what that word is? Teet.
Wave.
Wave. Right? And so, let's see where to go. It's a low, should be a low tone. There it is. So you got teet, and then you've got white caps, right? So this is a wave. Teet plane would be a big wave. But then there's also, oh, I think it's under katit. So then if you put ka in front of it, you're going to have like a variation of this. So we're going to go down and look for it. There's the words that start with ka, there's more of those than anything. Okay, let's see, where am I going? Is it there? Did I miss it? Is it not there? Okay. I'll go look down here. What do we call it? A wake. So like when you're going in a boat and it throws a wake. Datiti, that's what it was, not ka. So you'd have yak, da, ti, di. So the da goes in front of it, like so around. So the wave around the boat is the wake that's generated by the boat. And so you also have teet as a verb root. So if we go to the t's, you have, this one is different than these two, I think. So here's to be afloat, to be carried by the waves, and to roll in the swells. Iguchlatit. That's what Raven said to his mother. You're just going to float around on the world, carried by the waves. And so afloat, and this is kakashlatit, for a boat to really be rocking in the waves, right? Like when you get rough weather, that's what happens. And so we're going to get to these two kas here in a little bit. And we're going to be able to accurately identify which ka is popping up in these verbs. Okay, sheesh. Any other folks that want to share anything or any questions?
We think it you ʼatangi dictionary kak away. Yan chat wetney. Dat gas away. Ye kwasti. Ha janak kut. Ke shander chich. Ja, tucha nuch chat. Cha away. Ja, think it ka. Chach kwasaka. You do a sock qua. Ach guk yik. Ach guk yik gayak a way you ʼatangi. Chagu kwan away. Kuna de anas gast. God suck. Yádi that away. Kuna de Kanadin. Hakuch. Got suck. Actually, Yehwaji. Ya got. Kuna ach. Slash Wuge. Actually, Khatsa. Yan Khat Watney. Dot Gasaway Kwasti. Hajanak Kut. Cation the Hip. Ya Tukhanuch Khat. Should I translate?
Ach, tu asago dadiwch ach de tani shukwa. Ye awa chatsu ach tin de tani. Shkadat at the way you do a sako at shkadat at. Ya shingit it chai. Chago haku awa. Dasa has to toa usaguan. Ka has to de chankian hasati. Dasa hatsu has to asagu. Shingit aya shingit ani and it ain. Ka uchkeye has ausane. Ya yet at kunach away. Gwashwe yao. Kunach has to asagu. We has yao da aayí. Yende. Gwash yi ani dat. Acho a has to asagu yak tenk away. Yi ani chende. Has wakuchu. Agad zait klein has a guchleir. A klein tek isani a kade has a kaguch sacha. Ya yit adgi kach. Guchsa we schlein. Kleshe kukwasti keka schlein. Just schlein yesha. Ya kagad. Just the cutaway niche ka addi has aus a ku. Klesh keka at klesh has to tuaoshku. Gwash klesh kuch has yau da ayin. We ya. Just the katataji nakshuk wahi. Ya hachagu kaku has aus kuan. You kadeen away has ausletin. Yas the cut ya on. Yet cut. We yin. We age. Kunach has to twaus a goon. Which yachat the dashawe touch the cut at. At away. Kadeen away. Ye has ours nee. At yawu 18. Ako ya yidat ye has uwa g. Touch the cut that ya has to jayi keit. Gug. Yet the cut we get ani. It's a yes out le yech. Uhan kwa ye khoji. Eka. Kwashayu ʼatangi teen. Ya shingit tunde tani teen. Gachtu saku. Ya had the chanki sani hasu aayí sati. Ya shingit ani. Hastu ya ak. A data we. Hayagach satak. Hayagach satak. Ye o achtuati. A datu tuchte tunk. Ik de kat ha atrai. Wasa atgakwane. Gunilchish a datu tiu de tan. Ya shlusheid. Gach. Shao. A train a. Nich ka ati. Gwell a chaswuchich. Uhansu. Gwella idr. Kahakosti. Uchke kwati. Uchke utiqa. Gwella atki ka wehin. Kach kagachtu laga. Ye awe. Ach a. Hastu to gate aya you has kawul atk. You has kasha atk. Ya. Hashad nakki. Kunachweach to us the good hashad the honey awe. Hashad the nakki. yahayu ʼatangi hasawas ku. Aka hasu shantuk ekwati. Hasilko hastundatani. Yachakutundatani tin. Kwashkone dati tukachtulaan. Kwasheshwasakwati. Ya hatundatani tin ko awutusaku. Yukeka. Yatlatki aayí hasati. Gulchish yakeha. Yake. Johan suga. Datu kakakita. Ah.
Das klar hat gesagt. I had I continue to have problems with this, but I did learn from yeit recently that if there's a at or a da in the slinket hina verb, a lot of times that means that, like for example, at chasa'i, I cook. I am doing the cooking. And if you want to say chasa'i, I'm cooking it, it's like completely opposite from, you know, the instinct in English is to have, if I'm cooking it, I'm going to say it, but you don't say it. And the at part does not mean it. It means I'm doing the cooking, and that happens a lot of times with the transitive and intransitive verbs. So, you know, it's like it seems like I'm just learning that brand new every single time, but those kind of things run counter to my English brain, but I know they exist in Tlingit. So that kind of stuff is a continuous sort of, oh, okay, right. But it happens a lot. So those kind of things.
Yeah, the something, right? The something changes it, right? I'm cooking something, I'm eating something. And so, yeah, that is a different way to approach it, because in English you add the thing. Like, what are you doing? I'm eating, right? But then you can say, I'm eating sushi, right? Or whatever the thing is that you're eating. I'm eating shakask. But for Tlingit, like, the default seems to be that I'm eating it. But then if I just want to say eating, then yeah, I'll switch it to the something, and that will kind of lock up that spot and just say, I'm eating. I'm washing things. Right. Okay, good cheese.
So I guess, you know, after a while, it's like all this transitive stuff, you say transitive, you don't really know what it means, because in English, it's ingrained. You don't think subject, object, But that's so anyhow, every time I get it explained to me, it's very good. And in this case, it was Yeshtuchtla who helped. And then as far as stuff that what I would hope would help me this semester is some memorized chunks of phrases with verbs that are used in daily conversations. Just, I mean, past like introductory phrases, I think we practice a lot. So more chunks.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
And I wanted to say, Shtuga hatati ach slinket henach skunwan slinket henach hat ich at yila tuch. So I'm always learning stuff from my fellow students, and I so much appreciate it.
Goodness, sheesh. 30 minutes left, so we're going to transition. I appreciate everyone sharing. I appreciate how we help each other. And yes, we will practice. So some of the things as we push from sort of like everybody go write something and come back and share it, which is neat. But it's also, there's reasons why once we try conversations, we get stuck. So we are going to practice conversations, and we're going to try some different things. We're going to create like a talking circle. So everybody signs up for a spot. Imagine we're in this room and we're going to all share a thought. Like we're just talking about protecting our land and traditional foods and stuff like that. And so we're going to send it to the left. Then there's going to be other times where we form team A, team B, and we create an artificial conversation. Like, oh, well, what should we say to that? right? And so we'll try a few different things. There was also an idea that was shared about keeping a running list of just how to survive a conversation, right? And so just phrases that, because we do have the phrase book, which is wonderful, but just sort of like a quick go-to guide of like surviving conversations type of stuff. And always keep sending your ideas. Y'all have great ideas. We'll also have opportunities to continue to share both things that you have learned and also what's going to help you at this point. So I thought, okay, so first I gotta share this really. Okay, so the fairy is very fun for me because I tend to just get trapped, and so then I have to work on some kind of big idea. So here's one of the things, here's a sneak preview of something we're going to look at. So thinking of the verb components, I'm trying yet another approach. Every year there's a new approach. It's like, okay, remember there was a switchboard, and remember there was this thing, and we'll still have those things. But the idea is like, this is complicated, so we're going to use 6 different metaphors to look at it. But then I thought, well, okay, this is everything you need to do basics with verbs, right? And even though we say basics, it's incredibly complicated. But if you can master the things that are on this list, I think you can conjugate almost any verb in Tlingit. We'll get to the stem. Like with the stem, I know I always put the stem off whenever I teach advanced Tlingit. We'll get to it. But like that part you can kind of remember. It's going to be like long and high, long and low, short and high. But as far as what kinds of things, so we're going to go over, like you should be able to look at this list and know what every single one of these things are. And we're going to make sure that you do. Okay, we're going to make sure that you do. And there's quite a few things, but just like there's a preverb, there's an object, there are 4 thematic spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there are things that can pop up on them. There are 4 conjugation spots. And I don't think you can really have 4 things on it, but you can have 3. Maybe you can have 4. I'll see. But they also appear in a certain order, right? So they can't, there will be some jumping around of things, but just in terms of where they do pop up, that's where they are. The thing we'll go over after we sort of learn what these things are is what generally happens. This ga can become a k. This ga and this ga can become an underline, well, this one usually can become an underline x. When you have ga and kha, those usually become kha, right? And so we're going to talk about this stuff and how these things generally happen. And then we'll get into like the classifier. So there's all these different ways I'm thinking about writing the classifier and looking at it. This is yet another way. The 0 group, 0 with an I, 0 with a D, 0 with a D and the I, right? So you have 0, ya, da, and di. That one is a little bit different than the other ones, because then these ones make sense, because you have sa, si, the letter S, and then zi. But just in terms of like how we might code them, so we can say, okay, it's an S group classifier, there's a D which pops up in the front, there's an I which pops up at the end, and they mark certain specific things. So to show you, and I'll put this up so you folks can look at it. We're going to go over it just kind of quickly. But I thought, well, what if I just took a bunch of verbs and I just broke them down using this? There was a board game that came out years ago. I'm finally getting to, I think I have the instructions. They'll never be done, but there'll be some activities we could do with them. So if you took this verb, here it is, wugut. They went, they walked. You could say nesh de wugut, hit de wugut, at wugut, anach wugut. There's a whole bunch of things you put in front of it, but the verb itself is wugut. So here you have y for the perfective marker. You have the subject, a third person, unmarked subject, and you have a 0 plus I classifier, which is ya, right? So the one thing that's missing from here is just sort of writing all of those things out. But this is just sort of like saying, well, here's the things that are there. When they mush together, they start to do things. So y, 0, ya gets you woo, okay? Yao tu watlach, we succeeded. There's an object here that's unmarked, it's 0, it's a third person. Ya, is the vertical surface. Y is the perfective marker. T is us. And another ya classifier. That gets you yao tuwa. And as far as meaning, we succeeded, we obtained it, we defeated them. So there's a bunch of verbs on here, right? We're not going to do them all tonight. But I just want you to sort of look at this. I'll upload it. I have a Word version of this. I have a Pages version of this. And I have a PDF version of this. I made it on the way from and then there's a few things in here. There's also these verbs that I want to go over this semester. The difference between iyachsaka, yiyaka, chatyayisaka, yuchatayaka. Those are all very similar, like to say a certain thing and to say a certain thing to someone. The big difference between ka and neek is saying information or a story. Ka is saying this specific thing. Let me quote you the words of the great Kajakti, Walter Sobolov. Right? So that's where this is a direct quote. So this is where it becomes important, right? Your mother said to clean your room, right? This is, boom, comes in quotes, right? They told me it's $17 for this bowl of delicious ramen, right? So there's a bunch of verbs in here, and it shows you, like here and then I tried to pick some that have multiple thematic prefixes. So here's zero object, sha, ka, perfective, cha, and then here again, the ya classifier. Shakhoyuk, I shook it. Some clothing, not like a rat, that'd be a little bit different. Okay. So then there's some verbs, check them out. I did some ones that are a little more complicated. Don't smoke, I would have gone there, I can't sleep. And then also some verbs that are a little bit more, maybe not as common, but yena teach is in there. You can see those are all the parts that are there, including the suffix. The one thing this doesn't show, which I might add, but maybe there's enough stuff, is stem variation, which we will get to. Then here's an imperfective act, here's an imperfective state. Whoops, that shouldn't be there. Go away. Okay, whoops. Here's an imperfective negative, here's a perfective negative, here's a future if it's na or zero, here's a future if it's ga, here's a future if it's qa. And this is just saying if you look at this thing, those are the parts that should be there. And once you get that, you can learn how to change the subject, you could learn how to change the object, right? Ein kak kwa nik. Like all those pieces are there. And so there's one more, and then here's a big table that shows the main verb modes that we're going to be using this semester and every part that goes in it and the order that they must go in. So here's a future. It has to have ga, ka. If it's a ga conjugation, put k in front of it. If it's ka, put ye in front of it. These are non-negotiables, but these are also things that we can learn, and this chart is here while we learn it. The other thing that I did, this was a move I think towards the end of last semester, maybe, was making a big chart that's saying if you learn how to make a perfective, there's these four verbs that come underneath it that are built off of that. So built off of the perfective model, you have a negative, you have dependent, you have decessive, and you have a negative decessive. For example, I don't know it. Because I know it, or when I know it, I used to know it, and I used to not know it. So the next step after this would be trying to find, like, what does that mean? Because I'm trying to get away from some of the, in some instances, getting away from some of the more linguistic terms when we don't need them. For example, I think we're going to start calling this just the progressive instead of the progressive imperfective, because it's starting to happen. I think we're going to start calling this the habitual instead of the perfective habitual, because it's just talking about it's always that way, or it hasn't become that way yet. So the next step is probably for us to just to do away with all those terms and say, okay, it's the can, the can't, the will, the won't, and we'll just have a more straightforward way to say those things. So this is up there for you to study, for you to look at. We will begin going over it. We'll start using it. And then there is a related thing, which is still in a draft form. But I think I'm going to try and find someone who can help me with this. So, like, here's the verb. So if we took a verb, that's very tiny. I'm sorry, that's very tiny. Okay, we'll make it gigantic. I don't know if that's really gigantic. But okay, so here's our verb, akawanik. And what is the translation for that?
He translated it.
Yeah, they translated it. Okay, so going through, so this is in numbers. I can't get it to work in Excel, but I'm going to try. I'll keep trying, and if there's any people who know how these things work, let me know. So what this has is a drop-down menu, and so you say, oh, this is a third person, right there, right? So I'm still working out, like, that's not, that list is, you got to know what those things are, kind of. But then you can go to the thematic section 2, and it has a cha on it. And you can go to thematic section 4, and it has a ka. And then you can go to the, and you'll learn where these things are. You go to conjugation 4, and that's where the perfective marker is. You can go to the subject, and this is a third person 0 marker. And you go to the classifier, and this is a 0, I classifier. So maybe there's a universe where super smart computer people can set up something so I can click all these things and it'll spit out what it should be for me. But you also have that super smart computer brain, which can do it as well. Thoughts or questions on any of that stuff?
What's it supposed to spit out?
Well, then it would say akawa. It would spit out a prefix. And we've talked about this for years and years.
Well, is that the conjugated according to some challenging rules?
Yes, but all of those rules can be programmed, and we're programming them into your brains.
That would be pretty.
Because the next step after this is we're going to go through the slideshow called tlingit prefix conjugation basics. And when we say basic, that doesn't mean it's easy. That just means you got to get these ground rules. And once you get them, you start to understand how all those parts interact with each other. Because there's some things like, okay, we have a dog, we got a second dog. There are rules to how the dogs behave. First dog used to just be able to eat food whenever she wants. But second dog is crazy aggressive. So if second dog is around, she will not eat her food. So she is the guh. She's like, I'll contract, right? So we're going to set this up too to say, if these two meet, that one contracts, right? Because you're going to have like a little bully particle. It's like, I don't contract, you contract, right? But we'll set it up so you can sort of see those things. Okay, it's all coming. That's just a little sneak preview. But for now, we gotta, there's just some things I want to go over to just get us thinking about how the language works. So I thought,
sorry. I really like this chart, and I think it's going to be super helpful. I like how it reduces what to me is, overwhelming variability, but I know there's a system in there, but I can't replicate it. And this seems to kind of lay out each piece with limited options. And I don't understand it all yet, but I can see the system, even though I can't replicate it yet, but it helps to see that there's a system going on here. And yeah, I can't wait to hear more about the conjugation prefix because I still haven't nailed that down. It doesn't quite, I can't make heads or tails out of it just yet, but hopefully that'll come soon. And I also remember last semester in intermediate, you gave us another handout PDF that I think it was about parts of speech. was trying to find it, but I couldn't locate it on the webpage. And it was really helpful too. I think these two resources combined will be great to carry around, and they're small enough and compact enough to be quick reference tools. Yeah, do you remember that PDF I'm talking about? It had adverbs on it and direction words, and they were all color coded, and you hadn't, it looked like you hadn't finished it yet, but
Okay, maybe, okay, let's see. Could it be
Was
this?
it a chart?
it was like maybe 17 pages-ish.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so it was fairly long, and it looked like you hadn't finished it yet, but the first few pages had adverbs on it and
Oh, I
some
know.
prefix. Yeah.
Well, even when you say you haven't finished it yet, that doesn't narrow it down. Okay, yeah, so this is, I think you're talking about the handout for the verb conjugation game. And so yeah, I was actually just working on that the other day. So let me pull up what I think it is now. Then I'll share my screen with that, and then we'll do something a little different. So I'll put this thing up. I'll put all these things on our page so that we have them, and we can start sort of looking at them. And then what we're going to do is try and balance three things. So the three things we're going to try to balance is talking and tlingit, because if we just do all this stuff, we're not going to be able to talk. We'll just be able to like point out what, hey, there's a classifier, right? And then, so we're going to be talking and being conversational. Then we're going to look at these structural elements of tlingit and how they work and practice them. And then we're going to have some big thing that we're going to engage in, like translating, like just getting into whole language. So yeah, this does go through, like here's preverb chapter. Here's, I think I got it up to the subject. And then I think I should be able to finish this semester. We'll see. I gotta take more boat rides. I think that's the thing. It's like, I just gotta get on the ferry, because then there's no internet, so I'll just do the thing. Okay, but yeah, I think this is what you're talking about. And it's very much a draft. But yeah, it does, because if we get towards, so here's objects, and so it's all color coded, right? So this is the blue chapter for objects. This is the pink chapter for thematic prefixes. And it goes through like here's number one, number two, well, no, that's not it. When it goes through and lists them, here's number 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you go back to that other drop thing, this is where you find, this is your reference guide to what those things mean. So when you grab something like that means the mouth of something, right? And when you grab the first ka, it's comparative, right? Which we'll talk about what all this stuff means. Then here's the conjugation, and this is the chapter where I started to really think, and here it is as well, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? These things appear in a certain order. And what that means is on number 3, you can only have one of those things. If you pick one, that spot is locked up. But as we go through, it talks about these different verbs, how to move the verb into different modes. And then it shows at the end this big sheet that says these are the things that need to be there. The difference between this one and that one I just showed you is, for example, if we go into an imperative, this shows you that the conjugation prefix needs to be activated. So this sheet says, turn on the conjugation prefix, right? So if you have a verb that's na conjugation, like sleep, then you know you have to say nata. And if you have something like stand up, you know you have to have gidahan. And if you have sit down, you know you have to have qadnu, right? So this chart says which conjugation prefix needs to be there. And then the other one shows you, instead of saying it's there, it shows you where it needs to be. because ga and na are on different spots. Okay. Good cheese. Good cheese for bringing that up.
Yes, geez, that's it.
Okay. So we're gonna do some stuff with keit and yeit. This will be fun. What do you think I'm talking about with keit and yeit?
Up and down.
Isn't yeit a container?
Yes.
But keit has K in it and yeit has yay in it, like directions.
So there's a bunch of words that have keit in it. There's a bunch of words that have yeit in it. They're usually right at the end. They're a combination of, each of them are a combination of two things. What do you think any of those two things are?
One is up and one is down.
Kind of. Okay, so they both end with ut. So we're going to look at a bunch of keit things. We're going to look at a bunch of yeit.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
It's a thing. So we have ut and ut. What's coming before it? What are our other two words? Yeit is below.
Thing and
So we have on thing and below thing. How's that? And what do you think they're going to be? If it's
Beginning
on
and
thing,
end?
well, no, okay, if I say the first one is on thing, the second one is below thing, what do the Tlingit words have to be?
Above and below? No.
One of them is below. And what is below? Anybody know below? Yi. We have yi
Yi.
at, and now it's not above, but it's on. Ka at and yi at. This one, so
So on top of something?
yes, old smoky keit, right? So Tlingit, when two vowels meet, they will change. That's a pretty common thing. So if you have ka'at, you're going to have keit. If you have yi'at, you're going to have yeit. They both go long and low. Okay. So this is a combination exercise of learning maybe a few new words, and then learning the parts that are in that word, right? So the idea here is to just practice what happens when things combine. When things combine in Tlingit, it's like Wonder Twins activate. So who wants to say this word for me? We're all going to try and take turns. We got 10 minutes. keit. Anybody know what keit is? We're diving into the depths of Tlingit vocabulary as well. And it's okay if we don't know. But does anybody know?
You're on it?
Well, it's going to be, okay, we're going to learn how this thing works. And this is one that we might not know. There's an obscure body part in here. I would say it's obscure. These are valuable, and you attach them onto something. And you
But
dance.
a keit is like a keit is like an apron. So is that your body part?
It's gonna come. So what you're gonna find is when you have keit for a lot of things, it's a body part on thing.
Kind of like, is it anything like the keit?
Well, we're gonna see a bunch of keit things. What might ik be? You could buy these.
Apron.
A thumbnail?
You could buy these individually, or you could buy them on the thing, and you put them on your feet. And they're important for dancing.
Moccasins?
It's a part of a moccasin, yes.
Oh, is it like
Sock.
a tail of a?
What's the most valuable part of a moccasin? What do you think?
The fur, the upper.
The bottom.
The
Oh, then
sole.
the debate begins.
Yeah, the B work.
This might be the part that takes the longest. Actually, okay, full disclosure, I've never made moccasins. Seems like this would be the part that might take. This would be one of the defining characteristics. If that keit doesn't match up with what my clan uses, I'm not going to buy those moccasins.
Oh, the crest?
The crest.
What do we call that?
Crest that you put on top of it.
We call it a moccasin
You
top.
call it the upper,
Oh,
the up.
vamp.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the vamp.
Yes, vamp. Mm-hmm.
So if I said keit is made of 3 different things, what do you think those things are?
It's the leather
Nope.
or the felt or the felt.
No, okay, yeah, like that's what it's made out of. Talk about
Oh,
the single word. So yes, you are correct. Goodness cheese. That was, in hindsight, that's a trick question. It's 3 words. So we're gonna have, yeah, because this, I'll give you this one because this is probably a body part you haven't learned yet. Ik, I think ik is the top of your foot. It says midfoot in the dictionary, but I think like you have a top of a foot. Like the hobbits, this is where that fur is on the hobbit, right? This is the top of your foot. That's why it's called keit, the top foot on top of thing.
Like your instep.
Well, your instep is the inside of your foot. It's like if a foot.
No, it's the top part.
Yeah.
It's like the tongue. It's like the tongue of a shoe more. The top.
Yeah,
If you have a high instep, you have a high top. Your foot is high.
A little bit, yes. It is the top of your foot. It's the top of your foot. Okay. No more foot talk. Okay. Oh, wait, somebody say this one.
keit.
Keit. Keit.
Keit.
What does that translate to?
Leggings. No, the mask.
Yes. Yeah. Specifically.
Face. Yeah.
So this is a mask. I would say it's a dance mask or a mask that is carved. I think this is a word where the meaning of it got a little bit confused over time. What are the 3 components of this one?
La.
Your major hint here is the first word is contracted.
La.
It has to start with an apostrophe L. The second hint is that vowel has changed because of the contraction. So if we look at this, let me show you an example. What is this?
Two nose? No.
Sand.
Ew, sand.
Like,
What happens if I put this plus this plus that plus that?
The contraction.
What will that become? Dak, ew, ut, I.
Oh, man.
That is short, right? See how that
Oh,
was?
that
Shortens.
oh.
What happens when you shorten an EIs? Sometimes. I think a lot of times. It goes to an A.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that'll happen. And if you add, because this, and so we see this back and forth with these vowels, right? And what the back and forth I'm talking about, A to the EI to the A, it's just kind of a fluid thing in Tlingit. we'll learn
Okay.
how to spot it. So if this has contracted and we pull it out, what does it become?
Lake.
What is that?
It's like dancing, a clay.
Dance on thing. Keit. That's how that works. 3 minutes.
Okay.
We gotta do 17 more of these.
Okay.
Everybody say this word. Keit.
Keit.
What do you think that is?
Song. No, I mean, voice.
What's the sa? Think of body parts. Where it's all
Your throat, your saw, your voice box,
Your
sa,
neck.
the
your
base,
neck.
the base of your throat, or the base of
Yeah.
your yes. What goes on there?
So your collar, your beaded collar.
Ah,
Your bib.
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 Yes, bib, the collar. Yes. And so, what are the 3 parts? Sakaat. Right? Look at this, getting easy.
Sakaat.
Look at this piece of cake. It's a piece of keit. Okay. I was gonna send this. Shut the whole Zoom down. Somebody say it. I don't know if we're gonna get this one. But we'll try.
Song keit.
Keit, right? What is it? It's armor. What are the parts? Sun, ka, at. So sun is a word for waist. I'm not exactly sure how that works.
Waist on thing.
Yep. I think it's probably the area between your rib cage and your hip, if you ask me. Uh-oh. Another one. Somebody say it.
Okay.
Take
What might the parts be? What might it be? I don't know if we're gonna get this. This one goes into the obscure category. In the interest of time, it's either protective headgear or floorboards in a canoe. I think it comes from tak, ka, at, takate. So you have a lot of contraction going on here. But talk can contract to ta. That does happen. Two more. A keit. What's it gonna be? It's a new word. We made it a couple years ago. The timing was really. It was all
Open mask.
Face mask.
It's a face mask. It's a mask that would go over your face and the parts there. At. Someone told me they didn't like the name because they said it sounds like a box on your mouth. But keit is different. It's at, the thing around something, the thing around the outside of something. So that's how you get keit. Keit is made from ka and at. Last one.
Foot. Is that something on your foot?
Oh,
Just say the trinket word first. Keit. So we've already got the moccasin top. What do we need next? Because the chus isn't only a foot.
Legging.
Right. So there you got it. Chus, ka, at. I'll check the tone. Some of these, I think I missed the tone mark. Sa and other things. But so here's a bunch of keit stuff. We're going to do some more. but we're going to switch to yeit next time we get together. So we did the keit things. Now we got to do the yeit things. We'll be balanced. It's just noun practice, just to get us thinking about the way that vowels interact with each other. And to also think of, like, here's a few new words, right? So one, you're going to learn a few new nouns and maybe a couple new body parts. So we're going to do this. After we do this, we're going to do a few different things like this just to see what we can figure out where we're at. Eventually, this exercise will give way to some larger whole language stuff, but we'll just do little nibbles at first. Anything before we go?
Yeah.
Fun.
How can you do shana keit?
Oh. Shana keit. So that should be, yeah, I'll have to look at that. But if
And can you do this with names?
You can.
You derive.
Because think of all the clan names, Tequedi, it's in there, right? Duckloedi. All those 80 clans have a vowel plus ut plus that. The difference there is you're having a relational suffix at the end. And so you also have, because like you could have maybe shan, nya, qe, ut, and that could get you shaniqid. Because if you have an underlined G, then you probably have qe, which is something between these two things.
And I don't know how to spell my name.
Oh, if it's
just from memory, I don't remember Dad doing naka. I thought for sure it was ka. I thought he pronounced it shanakate. That's my imitating his saying that name. Shanakate.
Huh. Okay. Yes. Well, the Shan part, I think of like Shah is the head, Shan is the temples. So you do get some things like where you have that. And then Shanya is the part of a fish, the collars of a fish is what it's commonly called. Like, or tips, like if you say, we have some black cod tips, Ishqin Shanya Achjidikachiti. Y'all can give me some black cod tips. Good. But so those are some parts that would be really good candidates for being in there. But I'll see if I can find anything on that name. Isai.
Gonna cheese.
Anything else? Going That's
Quick question for the class. I saw that you shared that in Whitehorse there's going to be that teachers conference beginning of November.
Yeah.
I was just curious if anyone in the class is planning on going.
Oh, is anyone going to the teacher training with the Taku River Tlingit Society?
I might be driving up with Yarrow from Haynes here.
Okay. Yeah, we should send a contingency up there.
If we end up going and you make it over to Haynes, we can carpool.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, man. Call your fellow chill cat. I think I gave you my number, but you don't got it. Your mom has got it, or your grandma, I think.
Or your auntie.
Okay, I still think, okay, someone's got to run with this idea. It's a red old school phone in a little room, and it's a crisis line for Tlingit questions. And we just take shifts, right? Like, Tlingit crisis line. I forgot what this verb is, right? Like, I just think we need that. Okay. Somebody make it happen. But also, we got to figure out some study groups, study times. I know that really helps a lot of people. So I'll set aside some time on Wednesday for us to brainstorm and to figure out we'll probably figure out, I'll reach out to some partners, SHI, Go Belt, and see if they want to fund someone to run some of these study groups and conversation groups. I think they are very helpful. Okay?
Okay.
Huchaga.
Cheers.
Cheese.
Good seeing everybody
Peace.
again.
Good night, Cluster King.
Goodness, cheese.
Si
Cheese.
Ziagan, all the other things. Have a good night.
Cheese.
Touch the
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
Peace.
it's good to see everybody. Hey, young man. Yeah, you're looking around. I'm talking to you.